Trials of a Royal Guard. By Ansel. Chapter 54. Our Virtues. Tension hung in the air after Sunny's assertion of my resurrection. It was an extremely bold claim. Ranhild would not tolerate lies and, in the scheme of things, saying a pony died, met a dead alicorn, and returned was pretty fantastical. The magnificent purple dragon's head cocked, her ember eyes staring down at Sunny's determined face. It was as if she was trying to smell the truth or intimidate it out of the golden mare. It was truly an impressive sight to watch the two of them locked in ocular combat. The aura surrounding the beast flared. It was an attempt to throw Sunny off, but she did not budge. Neither would give on that front, but it was the matron's turn to speak. "You suggest to me that Silent Night was slain and restored to life?" the matron asked, her tone very flat and guarded. "No, matron. That wasn't meant as a suggestion. I state it as fact. Silent Night was slain in the defense of Princess Luna and was restored to life by Princess Celestia. She has mighty powers when it comes to the restoration of the body," Sunny replied as she puffed out her chest. This was shaping up to be a very different negotiation than the ones I'd had. Ranhild and I negotiated as if we were playing a game of chess. We always tried to outmaneuver each other. Sunny was going at this head-on. Noctina herself once regaled to me about the powers of the alicorns of the sun. I do not doubt them. Your claim, however, has a flaw in it. If what you say is true, then what need would you have of me, pony? If Silent Night spoke to Noctina herself, why would I have knowledge of her that she, herself, does not? In regards to her domain, what could I know that she would not share? Ranhild challenged. It was an excellent challenge, too. One that cast all the more doubt on my claim and, in our current circumstance, on Sunny's words. My eyes briefly wandered to the keep. It helped my mouth remain shut as I fought the urge to step in. Why had Noctina kept this a secret from me? Was it trust? Perhaps if I seemed not to be myself, Ranhild would slay me and the virtues would remain beyond the grasp of Maristella. Sunny had not spoken yet. The look on her face remained the same, but she was struggling. Without warning, Farrell stepped to her side and lifted her head to meet the dragon's gaze. "Great matron, with your permission, I would answer this question." Everyone's attention shifted to the ancient unicorn. The matron's amber eyes shifted from one mare to the other before she said, "Indeed? Then by all means, answer, Oracle of Kalinda." Silent Night's mistress does not fully trust that he cannot be manipulated by her enemies, Farrell explained. Were Noctina to simply share with him all that he needs to know, only he would know, and were he to be manipulated, her other allies may never know. Thus, we come before you as a group, instead of as an individual, to seek your knowledge and wisdom. My wings twitched. Farrell had just called my trustworthiness into question. That might bite us. Ranhild briefly looked back at me before replying, "Your explanation, while clear, leaves much to be desired. If Noctina does not trust Silent Night, why should I?" And there it was. Dream Pop hopped up onto Sunny's back so she could, I suppose, be closer to the dragon's maw. "Great mistress. May I speak?" With an amused flick of her foreclaw, the gargantuan dragon replied, "Why not? I am finding this tale more and more curious. Noctina does trust Silent Night, and we do, too. The problem is, as I understand it, he only has so much time before some dark magic makes it possible for bad ponies to read his thoughts. That is why we need to get the information and use it before that happens." "Read my thoughts? Dark magic. I should have negotiated. I really should have negotiated. Lady Noctina, why couldn't you have just told me where these things were? Why place a dragon in my way? What could she possibly?" My eyes focused on the keep again. "Ah!" Without addressing Dream Pop's statement directly, Ranhild turned her attention to the remaining two ponies. "Nox pony, you are Nocturna's own. Do you trust Silent Night?" "Completely, great matron," Tranquil replied. The dragon's eyes fell on Miley. And you, Miley Hooves? Yes, ma'am. He's my boss and friend. He'd never hurt us. He's just had a lot of bad stuff in his head. So we're going to help him, and to do that, we need the virtues of harmony, but Noctina didn't say where they were. She just told Silent Night that an ally was guarding them, and he figured that had to be you or someone you knew. Every pony else turned to stare at Miley. She'd just given away everything we needed in our predicament. Ranhild chuckled deeply, the sound rumbling within her great chest. She reached out and scooped Miley up in her claw. Every pony tensed and my jaw set. I could get to my sword. I could attack her from the side. Miley quivered in the grasp of Ranhild as the dragon brought her closer to her maw. To our surprise, the ancient beast actually smiled. You, I like the most, Miley Hooves. I shall speak to you, as you're too fearful to be duplicitous. You want the treasures of Kalinda and Noctina, then? Miley stammered, why yes, ma'am. Please. Thank you. We need them to stop Maristella. She's a bad pony. Ranhild's tail lashed when Miley had spoken the name of our enemy. It was the only time I'd ever seen her impulsively react to anything spoken. I see, the dragon rumbled before setting the mare back down with the others. Sunny had seen it, too. She stepped up and set a hoof on Miley before addressing the dragon. Yes, matron. We need them to settle Nocturna's business once and for all. We also need them to protect Silent Night. He is of our brood, and I know that you take protecting your own quite seriously. You speak true, Captain Day. Protecting one's brood is the greatest task of any matron. I respect your desire to do so. Noctina sought to do just that. Despite that fact and the honesty of the Miley Hooves, I am afraid, however, that we cannot negotiate. That was a strong tactic to take immediately. We'd have to really butter Ranhild up to shift her from that position. My companions had given too much away. Although at this point I wasn't sure we needed the knowledge any longer. And may I ask why? Sunny replied, defiance in her voice. Is that not obvious? As I said, you seek the treasures of Kalinda and Noctina. These are not mine to give. Unless you're suggesting that a dragon such as I would scavenge and take them as my own in the absence of their masters. Dream Pop lifted one foreleg, the other smashing down on the back of Sunny's head. No, matron. We would never do such. Can we negotiate for your knowledge of where they may be? Ranhild's head gave a long shake. No, great wizard, for that is also not mine to share. In truth, not being able to negotiate with such curious ponies does bring me great displeasure. As a token of my great generosity, I shall instead give you this. You are welcome here today, and today only. Come and go as you please. You may explore this city as you desire, so long as you do so in a respectful way and leave my brood at peace. Good day, ponies and Miley Hooves. Clever dragon. Ranhild turned to me and dropped her head so that she could be at my level. Silent Night, you honor your word and bring esteem upon the Knights of the Moon, as well as yourself. You spoke true and did not interfere even as I took your friend in claw. As such, you and your knights are welcome here always. I bowed low. My gratitude, great matron. Thank you for your hospitality. The Obsidian are known for just that, Ranhild replied before she smiled at me. It was genuine, but with all of the teeth and the size of her maw, it still looked like a threat. She then made her way off into the darkness, leaving the square relatively empty beyond a few curious dragon whelps. When she was out of sight, Sunny stomped her hoof. It was forceful enough to send Dream Pop tumbling off. To my surprise, the earth pony tucked, rolled, and then ended up on her hind hooves with both forelegs in the air in a pose that was reminiscent of a circus act. Oh, I'll give her the business. Sunny spat. We're going to negotiate. When she started off in the direction Ranhild had walked, Dream Pop hurriedly jumped to grab her. Wait. Wait, Sunny. I think she helped us. I stroked my chin. I was thinking so, too. In fact, I was almost certain of it. What do you mean? Tranquil asked softly. She has no reason to let us go exploring in her lair, I said. It isn't of any value to the princesses, and offering something of no value is an insult. I'm insulted. Sunny huffed. Farrell looked around. Be that as it may, Sunny Day, a dragon matron would not lightly insult the princesses of Equestria. Miley gasped. The virtues, they're here. Aren't they? Dream Pop nodded. Smart issues. I bet they are. Since they weren't hers and she is protecting them, she couldn't say so outright, but she basically said so. Great, so we just have to go over an entire city in a single day. Easy. Sunny grumbled. I shook my head. No, Sunny, I don't think we do. I turned to look up at Nocturna's keep once again. It was a looming, frightening fortress. How the Nox ponies had ever viewed it as fashionable, I didn't know. There was something inside that I knew about. Something that had frightened me in the past. I think I know exactly where they are. Dream Pop followed my gaze up to the keep. Makes sense to me. She started trotting away from us and up the large stairs that led to the ancient hold. She seemed unfazed by the grotesque, winged statues that stared out at us all. They didn't bother me so much anymore, either. When I'd first ventured inside, I'd been alone and afraid. I had no idea what or who I'd find. Come on, ponies, there is something inside I think you'll enjoy seeing. Assuming you don't gallop off in fear. Miley squeaked, why would we gallop away in fear? Sunny started up the stairs. Didn't Silent Night tell you? The Nox ponies of old used to sacrifice earth ponies to ward off the ghosts of this mountain. Now that they don't do that anymore, there are ghosts everywhere. My ears flicked at that. It seemed Sunny had flipped the switch from serious to silly again. Surely Miley wouldn't believe such nonsense. Nuh-uh. You're not going to scare me, Sunny. I know that is a lie, Miley replied. Tranquil cleared her throat. Do not be so certain, Miley. As shameful as it is to admit, Sunny speaks the truth. That was unexpected. Miley gasped, no, and started trotting the opposite direction. Farrell looped a hoof around Miley's and started to trot up the stairs, pulling the little mare along. Come, Miley hooves. I shall protect you from the ghosts and spirits. They will think twice before crossing an exemplar of the Unicorn Temple. Sunny cackled and rushed up the steps. As if one pony would be enough to save her. You should all remember we're guests here, show a little respect, I said as I went up after them and pulled one of the large double doors open. Sunny trotted through, her tongue poked out in my direction. She was the very image of maturity. It never failed to amaze me how fast the mare could swing from dead serious to beyond silly. I waited for every pony to get into the keep before pushing the door closed and breathing a sigh of relief. All right, that was an interesting negotiation. Good job, every pony. Keep in mind that our words and actions are still representative of the kingdom. We won't have any privacy. Okay, we get it, Silent. I'll be professional, Sunny replied. Tranquil looked around in wonder. I rarely saw her break out of her reserved state, but she looked thrilled. We're in Nocturna's keep. I've heard so many stories about it, but this is unreal. Look at her balcony of address. Her hoof pointed up. That was a place I was familiar with. It was my first exposure to the Alicorn's power. I'd also seen it during its glory days via a memory crystal. The foyer of the keep had been preserved almost like a courtyard, even if it was inside. 2 floors up was the balcony itself. It jutted out from the walls and allowed a pony to look down and address those below her. On either side were long staircases that would have been guarded. The blue glow that was cast from above was still present, exactly how I remembered it. Only this time I was not full of frightened anticipation. I knew what it was and I suspected it held what we needed. That is where we're going, I put in as I pointed above. The tip of Farrell's horn illuminated, casting a subtle silver light. I can feel it from here. There is a great deal of power in this place. Sunny's nose wiggled. You know, I hadn't noticed at first, but yet, you're right. Miley looked around. This place is creepy. Dream Pop happily bounced. Creepy awesome. We'll want to go upstairs to the balcony. I have a feeling that is where we need to start, I explained. But we'll get to explore the whole keep, right? Tranquil asked hopefully. Right. Dream Pop parroted. I cleared my throat. Perhaps we should focus on the potentially alicorn-ending villain first and then come back for the tourism. Tranquil sighed. Point taken. Dream Pop's nose wiggled as she gave a resolute but silent nod. With a frightened Miley, indifferent Farrell, and overconfident Sunny, the disappointed pair started making their way up one of the grand stairways that flanked the balcony above. On the first occasion I'd been here, I'd crept my way up. This time, I ascended the stairs with determination. I knew what I would be facing, a magically enchanted stained glass mural. A mural that imparted fear. Where better to hide a set of powerful artifacts? My training as a Knight of the Moon had sought to harden my mind from outside influence. Not that it was remotely enough to stop something as powerful as Maristella, but I wondered if it would at least help against the stained glass. There was no harm in letting my companions go first. I simply lingered near the stairs to see how they reacted. Sunny was first, her bravado still getting the best of her. She trotted onto the landing and around the half-pillar that framed the back of the balcony. When she stepped into the glow of the stained glass, she froze, staring at it with wide eyes. Sunny! Miley whispered. Come along, Miley Hooves, Farrell said, practically dragging the petite mare with her. When the pair got into the light, Miley squeaked and couched down, burying her eyes behind her forelegs, peeking out. Farrell stood at Sunny's side, her head tilted curiously. The aura didn't seem to impact her as much. Dream Pop and Tranquil exchanged glances. For science? Dream Pop asked. For knowledge, Tranquil replied before the two went together, hoof in hoof. As they stood in the glow of the stained glass, I could see the most subtle of tremble along their forms before both of them knelt in submission. Sunny and Farrell's will was remarkable. I took my time walking around the pillar, trying to admire the artwork for what it was beyond a defensive tool. Noctina stood proudly at the center of the piece. It was clear she was at the height of her power given her size and stature. The waves of power began to crash into me. My senses were assaulted and my legs urged me to kneel. I didn't, however, I forced myself to continue to look. Noctina was attending to her Nox ponies. Many were depicted as small, draconic winged figures. They all stood beneath a full moon in the heavens that matched one on the alicorn's flank, bright, and full with the symbol of an owl overlaid, surrounded by twinkling stars. My body froze as my eyes met hers. They appeared cool with the glowing blue light radiating through them. The real ones had been far more welcoming. Welcoming was not the intent of this place, however, and the stained glass beckoned me to prostrate myself or take flight. I chose neither. I took a step forwards. I am a Knight of the Moon, I whispered. It was all I could manage. All of the ponies in the stained glass were insignificant. They worshipped at Nocturna's hooves. Only one pony could stand in her presence, the blue unicorn that would one day become Princess Luna. That gave me the power to step forwards again. I am a Knight of the Moon. Farrell muttered, Alicorns, give me strength, for I seek nothing more than to flee this terrible place. I set my hoof on the mare's shoulder. Yes. That is why I believe this is what protects the virtues of harmony. This is our test. We have to be brave, every pony. I don't think there is any true harm to be had. She put them behind a spell so powerful that it implores ponies to run in fright? Brilliant, Farrell replied. Though she was frightened, she did not show it. How? How do we get them? Miley whimpered from beneath her hooves. Tranquil flared her wings from where she was bowed. It was a nervous gesture. She eventually settled them back to her body. We must find the will to touch the glass in a similar method to the conservatory. That has to be it. Dream Pop pushed her back hooves into the carpet, forcing her body forwards. That is a good hypothesis, Dusky, even if my body is screaming no. Come on, every pony. Fight your way there. Together then, I said as I reached a hoof out for the stained glass. Every instinct told me not to do it, and my own hoof fought against me. It trembled and wriggled, trying to go in a direction opposite of what I wanted. This place was not meant for ponies such as myself. The others were similarly struggling. Quivering hooves reached out as individual battles of will were waged. Feral took a deep breath and then exhaled. Her hoof moved forwards with a stern willfulness. When she came in contact with the glass, she whispered, "It is safe. I am a knight of the moon," I said sternly to my hoof. It listened and went forwards, touching the glass. Sunny's back legs were simply not moving. She had a foreleg planted firmly on the floor while the other reached out. The golden mare kept going until she tipped forwards and fell onto her face. Despite that, the foreleg that was outstretched was on the glass. Dream Pop and Tranquil were working together. They were pushing with their hind legs and using the carpet for momentum. Tranquil reached forwards with a wing to make contact while using her forelegs to hold onto one of Dream Pop's. Almost there. Dream Pop grunted before finally pressing her hoof to the mural. Come, Miley hooves, it is safe. Hurry, before our will fails, Feral urged. Being this close to stained glass of Noctana was excruciating. Not painful, exactly. It just felt like the absolute wrong thing to do. Miley didn't move at first. She was just hiding under her forehooves. I'm not scared, she shouted. The little mare slinked forward along the floor like a caterpillar, her forehoof extended. A few more scoots brought her into contact. We all stood there, touching the glass, fear raging in our mind. Nothing happened. Silent. Sunny whispered. Yes. I replied. She glanced at me. Say the magic words. Aloha Mora. Dream Pop shouted. Miley's teeth chattered as she whispered, nothing is happening. Are we at the wrong place? Feral shook her head. I think not. The portal seems clear. The key is the mystery. I have never read of anything like this in the archive, Tranquil put in. I could blast it. I should blast it, Sunny droned, her eyes fixed on the glass. No. Dream Pop squealed. We should hug. What? I asked in confusion. Our eyes fell to her. We should hug. The elements didn't work until Twilight made friends. We're friends. Friends hug. Forgive me, Dream Pop, but your obsession with hugging is confusing. Was the one by the wagon not enough? Feral asked. Miley quickly scooted over and hugged Dream Pop's foreleg. Hugs make me feel less afraid. There isn't any harm in it, and there are never enough hugs in the world. Tranquil pressed close to Miley and Dream Pop, wrapping her wing over the latter's back. Agreed. It was hard to argue with that. At best, Dream Pop was right. At worst, we'd just look silly. I joined them. Feral merely shook her head and followed along. I could still blast it, Sunny muttered. No, Sunny Day, come and join this ritual first, Feral urged. Begrudgingly, Sunny did. She was acting quite brave, but there was tension there. I don't think she appreciated the feel of the magic being focused against us. When we were all embracing, Dream Pop called, now touch it. In unison, we did so, and the weight of the stained glass's aura shattered. The fear and trepidation melted away, and much like Miley had said, the hug made me feel better. We lingered there, holding onto each other with our hooves on the mural. Without warning, the keep started to tremble. The pale light cast through the stained glass went out and the half-pillar to the left began to twist. As it rotated, a door came into sight, revealing a new glow. A warm, golden one. Dream Pop cheered, "Hugs win the day again." We lingered for a moment. There was no reason to, but we did. Hugs were a wonderful thing. Farrell slowly disengaged and headed towards the opening. "My apologies for doubting you, Dream Pop. If this day calls for a third hug, I shall not question it." I chuckled. It was interesting to watch Farrell live in our world. She hadn't for hundreds of years. I followed after her. One challenge down. Hopefully, we don't have another and, if we do, hugs are the answer. The newly revealed door led to a square chamber behind the stained glass. It was a simple, unassuming stacked stone room that shed radiant light from another piece of glasswork. Yellow, orange, and red, glass pieces had been embedded into the floor, creating a six-pointed sun that dominated the very center of the chamber. Each point reached out to the base of a beautifully hewn alabaster pedestal. A fact I only knew because of my cousin, Runic. He'd have loved this place. Calcite alabaster was easy to work with and had a warm, almost honey-colored look when finished. A master crafts pony had carefully sculpted a raised circle onto each pedestal. She or another pony had then carefully built a unique mosaic for each one out of the same glass pieces as the floor. The mosaics were familiar: a heart, a hummingbird, a lit candle, a lion's head, a fruit tree, and an owl. A single metal disc stood on the top of each pedestal, each facing the center of the room. These symbols match the ones in the conservatory. Dream Pop squealed happily as she hurried over to the pedestal that bore the etching of a fruit tree. "This one is mine." She peered at the disc of bright gold that shimmered in the light of the tile sundae. "Ooh, something is written on it, but I don't know this language." Sunny Day trotted to the pedestal with the inscription of a heart. That disc was copper in color. "This one, too," she said. "And this one as well," Tranquil added in as she peered down at the dark, silvery disc resting on the pedestal with a lit candle carving. I made my way to the pedestal with the lion's head on it. It was the same symbol I'd set my hoof on at the conservatory. The disc there was seemingly made of the finest silver. It, too, had an inscription. "This is temple script," Farrell said absently as she studied the white metal disc standing on the pedestal of the owl. "What is temple script?" Dream Pop asked with genuine interest. Miley's head was about an inch off her disc as she peered at it curiously. Hers was the color of a shiny brass button. Farrell explained, "Long ago, before all ponies rode in the same language, the Unicorn Temple needed a method of communication for all members to understand regardless from whence they'd come." "Can you read it, Exemplar?" Tranquil asked. Farrell's horn lit and her magic illuminated the disc in front of her. She slowly lifted it and took a closer look. "From experience comes wisdom, and only the wise may stand against the darkness." As she uttered the words, the metal started to glimmer. Farrell's horn suddenly went out, but the disc continued to float. It started to rotate and a beam of white light flickered outwards from its surface. There was a brief flash and when my eyes readjusted, there was a white, metallic laurel interwoven into Farrell's mane, the silhouette of an owl where the two branches intertwined. The mare blinked as if her eyes were still impacted by the flash. She looked at each of us in brief confusion. "Was I gone again?" she asked. It was a question I had not heard in quite some time. "No, not that I could tell," I replied. "I see," she said softly before turning to her left and walking to Sunny. The way she moved was more akin to how she had prior to the loss of her powers. "Lift the disc in your magic, Sunny Day. You will now receive its power." Okay," Sunny replied, not sounding wholly confident. Despite that, she did as she was told. While the disc was wrapped in Sunny's magical grasp, Farrell read, "There can be no victory without love. Love all equally, even those that stand against you." Sunny's disc started to float on its own, breaking the attachment with her magic. It drifted towards her heart as red beams of light swelled from its center. This time I closed my eyes and, even in doing so, I could tell there was a flash. When they were open again, I could see a copper heart affixed to Sunny's breastplate. She looked around in confusion, her eyes distant and unfocused. Farrell moved on to Miley, who looked quite uncertain. "Miley Hooves, take up your disc and fear not." Miley did as she was ordered, holding it out in Farrell's direction and keeping it as far away from her own body as possible. Humility is a quiet power that few understand. Be humble in the face of opposition and, in turn, humble it. A soft glow ran up the middle of the disc before it started to intensify. It grew in power until it split the metal into two parts that started to creep up Miley's forelegs. I turned away only for a moment. When I looked back, Miley was admiring a new set of foreleg bangles. She sheepishly smiled as she admired them both. They were bright brass and fit well above her hoof guards. Beautiful metallic feathers jutted out from them, giving the appearance of small wings. "Tranquil Dusk, it is now your turn," Farrell said as she approached the Nox pony. "I hope I'm ready," Tranquil replied as she lifted the disc with her wingtips. "Those that hope dare to imagine a better world. Hope is the light in the darkness. Cherish it." The disc gleamed brightly before spreading out across her left wing. Its form changed to that of a small platinum wing cuff that fit delicately on the bend of her wing. A lit candle charm dangled from it. Tranquil held her wing up, staring at it with great pleasure. Her tail slowly swished back and forth as she seemed fixated. Farrell turned to me. "Silent night." I nodded. There was nothing else to say. I scooped the disc up in my wings the same way Tranquil had. Courage comes not from being the greatest warrior, but from doing what must be done when the time is right. The disc started to glow and I could feel warmth and energy start to ripple along my wing and into my body. It was like nothing I'd ever experienced before, even death. A feeling of peace surged through my mind. There was nothing more to fear in the world. No matter what came, I could face it and would not need to do so alone. There would be ponies at my side. Together, we could stop the darkness. Together, we could draw out Maristella and defeat her. The glow around me brightened. I could feel the power building on my right foreleg. You must outplay your opponent. Maristella will not clumsily reveal herself as some arrogant villain. To draw her out, the prize must be worthwhile. The prize must be worthwhile. I smiled. I knew now what had to be done. As the light faded, I looked down to find a guard on the upper part of my right leg. It was made of silver and inscribed with the head of a lion. It was the most beautiful piece of armor I'd ever seen. Dream Pop was standing on her hind legs, hopping back and forth. Her disc was cradled to her chest. "My turn, my turn." Farrell walked close and managed to read through the motions and cradling. Benevolence in the face of darkness brings heart to your allies. It cannot be mistook for anything but harmony. There was a final flash of light and Dream Pop spun around in confusion. "It's gone." Miley Hooves giggled. "No, it isn't. Look at your pigtails." Dream Pop's head tilted as she let one flop over into her face, a hoof running through it. Her disc had transformed into barrettes for her mane. One on each side held the pigtails in place. The mare gasped in delight. Then, Dream Pop turned her attention back to us. "Did any pony else have a flash of something?" I nodded. "I certainly had." "Indeed," Farrell replied. Tranquil still stared at her wing cuff. "I as well." "Me, too," Miley replied. We then all turned to Sunny, who was still standing about, looking off into the distance. "Sunny?" I asked. Without warning, Sunny gasped happily and stood on her hind hooves. She threw her forehooves up and wiggled her hips. "Yes. Yes. In your face, Twilight Sparkle. Now Sunny Day has her own magic jewelry." The golden mare tapped the heart-shaped metal on her breastplate and shouted, "How do you like me now, you nerdling mega virgin?" It was at that point that I knew Sunny was completely okay. "What is wrong with being a virgin?" Farrell asked, her head tilted. "Yes. What is wrong, indeed?" Tranquil Dusk put in, her nose tipping up. Miley squeaked, "Wait. Farrell, you're like super old. You mean to say you've never, with a stallion? What about a mare?" "I have not," the exemplar replied resolutely. "Brr." Sunny stammered before coming back down on all of her hooves. "But that is Dream Pop stuffed a hoof over Sunny's mouth. "Super okay. Every pony is different and special. They're allowed to decide when and if they want to be intimate with other ponies or even griffins. But they're missing out on it." Stallions feel. Miley's next words were indecipherable as I'd looped a foreleg around her face and pulled her up against me. I cleared my throat. What Miley was about to say is that Dream Pop is right and every pony is entitled to living the way they want to live. Now, as much as I love hearing the five of you discuss the intimate details of your lives, can we please focus on the fact that we just found the virtues of harmony? Sunny quickly nodded. "Right. I think I was, here." She stood back up and started sliding her hind hooves back while pumping her fore hooves. In your face, in your face. Suck it, Twilight." Miley wiggled her hooves between her face and my foreleg. She whispered to me, "Why is she like that?" I leaned in and whispered back, "She thinks they're rivals. Princess Celestia told me that Twilight Sparkle thinks they're friends." Twilight doesn't understand that Sunny is being sarcastic when she's seemingly being nice. "Ooh. Neat." Miley chirped. While Sunny celebrated in her own way, Farrell looked to me. Our eyes met briefly and then hers flicked down. "We should return to the palace." "We should, yes," I replied. "Come along, every pony. You can come back and explore when this business is done." Sunny started prancing towards the opening. She hadn't pranced in a while. That was nice. "Yes. Let's go. Some pony get me a quill and paper. I want to send Twilight a letter." "Dear Twilight Sparkle," Miley squeaked, "no. Let me tell you something about humility. And benevolence." Dream Pop put in. Tranquil laughed. It was genuine and rare. She trotted off after them. Farrell and I lingered a moment. I then slipped a wing over her back. "Let's go. We have a lot of work to do in a very short period of time." The mare looked over at me and nodded. "Indeed. For Equestria." "For Equestria," I replied. Author's note. Please be mindful of those who haven't read and use the spoiler tag. If you are enjoying this story, please consider taking a look at Crystal and Maya's website quillandblade.com for extra content such as mini-stories, QNBO wiki, and special rewards for the awesome folks who support our Patreon. We also have lovely art. Drop in sometime. End author's note.